And, David Wells, the minute he threw his perfect game, it seemed to validate him and his place on the roster, his place in the rotation. And from that point on, he was the best pitcher in the American League in 1998 after his perfect game. So, you hope the confidence that Domingo gets in this game gets him on a run and allows him to really, truly believe in himself and get over the hump in terms of whatever confidence that he has or needs moving forward. So that's the hope short term. And in the long term, he and Kyle Higashioka will be signing autographs for life, and the further removed they get from it, the more they're going to appreciate it.
And David, what about the Yankees needing this win tonight as well? And moving forward, can this help jumpstart the team moving forward?
Yeah, you hope so. I mean, you can't just keep talking about, the offense and Aaron Judge and what do they do to score more runs. At some point, you have to adapt. And the way you adapt is you pitch better and you field better and you do run prevention more than you do run scoring, at least until Judge gets back or at least until you can get something going offensively. So really, the Yankees are very capable of winning games a different way than just slugging or being the Bronx Bombers. And maybe Domingo Germán showed the way tonight because there was some good defense behind him as well. Some unnoticed, but certainly Rizzo at first base kind of saved that perfect game. That was probably the best play of the game, Rizzo's backhand along the line there.
David, I wanted to return to something that Chris already sort of asked you about, but I want to dig in a little deeper. You mentioned how you didn't even speak to Girardi during your perfect game. How surprised were you to see Domingo Germán sitting in the dugout, looking chill, having conversations with pitching coach Matt Blake? Usually players are so superstitious that they want to stay as far away from possible as the pitcher who's throwing a no-hitter or a perfect game. I think we lost him.
We think we lost David.
You and I were surprised. we were surprised by that.
All right, we're going to step aside, take a break here on the WB Mason postgame show. Domingo Germán, perfect in Oakland. When we come back, we will hear from the manager, Aaron Boone. That's next right here on Yes, and streaming, of course, on the Yes app.
The Yankees postgame show on Yes is presented by WB Mason. Count on who but WB Mason to refresh your office break room. Shop new Keurig brewers and new K-Cup pod flavors today.
Severino's ready. Let's do it here in the Bronx. Swing and a miss, not reaching that time. Severino wins the battle. Strike three, got him with the slider. Swing and a miss. Masterpiece for Luis Severino.
Welcome to the Athletic Basketball Show.
Folks, the league is in absolute chaos.
Players going off pretty much every other
Playing picture that, when it clears, could leave a few future Hall of
thing
Famers.
is, it might all come down to some rookie taking free throws. Pittsburgh is on pace to break the all. Got the young guys
The Athletic. Subscribe today.
All right, here we go. It's a big responsibility to be a designer. Dagny Dover is a bag brand based in New York City, founded by 3 women. We make hyper-functional, performance-driven bags. That's like a mouthful. We're all about getting the most out of life. When you're organized and you have your things together, you feel good. And when you feel good, you can live life intentionally. Oh, it's pronounced Dagny Dover. Dagny means new dawn. It's a new dawn for fashion.
Managing my credit card debt was overwhelming. I felt like I was in a race that I couldn't win. I felt backed into a corner, and it just wasn't a good place to be. My name is Carter, and Upstart helped me get rid of that credit card debt with a personal loan. Checking my rate with Upstart was super quick, super easy. It took me a few minutes to get my pre-approval and to get my interest rate. I got my money the next day. I was like...
Easy online borrowing. Personal loans up to $50,000. Go to Upstart.com.
Domingo Germán, 1 out
Domingo Germán has thrown the 24th perfect game in baseball history. The 4th perfect game in Yankees history. He did it. Wow. Oh my gosh, that was so incredible to watch. Good for him.
Look at the box score here for the A's, and we just want to thank David Cohn for joining us, one of 4 New York Yankees pitchers now to throw perfect games. That was an unforgettable edition of our Sounds of the Day presented by Hyundai. Let's hear what Aaron Boone has to say about this historic game.
Aaron, how stressed out were you in that 9th inning?
I was actually okay, man. It was just so fun to watch him do that and go to work. And, you know, we've seen him flirt with outings like that over time. You know, I think back to a game in 21 against the Red Sox where, you know, I think he took a no-hitter or something into the 8th maybe. And when he gets rolling like that, he's just so fun to watch at his craft, you know, just because he's so good at commanding all of his pitches. His curveball was great tonight. But because his changeup and his fastball were good too and made that curveball even more special, I was actually pretty calm over there. You know, just enjoying watching him kind of paint a masterpiece.
What will you remember about this historic night?
I think the fact that, you know, it's been a tough week for Domingo, you know, with what he's gone through, you know, losing an uncle and you know, for him to go out there and do that, I mean, I'm sure it adds to the emotion for him, and to see his teammates, how excited they are for him, knowing what he's kind of going through the last couple days. You know, I'm so proud of him. He's been through so much, and again, this has not been an easy week or time for him, and for him to go out there and paint that masterpiece was really just a lot of fun to be able to watch.
When did you start thinking about it?
I was aware of it in like the 4th, but in the 5th, you know, on my card when I, you know, at the end of that inning, you know, and he was in a really good shape pitch-wise, so I guess around then, probably the middle of the game.
Aaron, how good was the curveball? You singled it out, but just from your vantage point.
Yeah, it seemed really good. Hard to say, you know, over there, it's that short one, but just guys don't see it. So anytime he did get behind in the count, which obviously wasn't a lot, like he was able to get back in with anything. But again, like his other pitches were such a fact. I thought he had good power on his fastball, so that was in play. He used that a good amount. I thought he did a good job using his changeup too, even his changeup to get back into some counts. And I think that made it not just so predictable with the curveball, but his ability to strike it when he wants to and to shorten it up and throw it a little harder. He gets it going forward for a long time. And you see guys, like from the side, it doesn't look overwhelming. And guys, you know, you'll see good hitters when he's got it going all the time, you know, swing through it.
The fact that he was coming off those 2 outings, too, does that add a little bit to it, just given what he had?
Yeah, it does. Look, this game... this game will get you. You know, he's had such a good year for us, and like the last 2 outings have been so rough, you know, that it's kind of, you know, affected his overall numbers. The ERA wasn't good, but, you know, I think if we all, you know, that have watched this season unfold, he's really pitched well. And, you know, two really rough outings there. So to be able to bounce back from that, which is part of being part of the gig, you gotta be able to bounce back from some tough ones, and he's been able to do that. But just so happy for him, and you know, and credit to Higgy too. You know, Higgy was great back there with them, and just excited for them.
Was there any superstition not to talk to him in the latter innings?
Not really. I mean, I didn't, other than when he's walking off each time. You know, that way, Mingo. You know, handled a PFP ball on a really good play by Rizzo over there. So more just, typical when he was coming off the mound. I didn't say anything to him, you know, on the bench, but I wasn't necessarily over avoiding it either.
Aaron, it was kind of unique in that, you know, there's a 24-minute, I believe, fifth inning with the offense getting going there. He went out to the bullpen to throw some pitches. Then, obviously, there was the injury issue. Just how laser-focused he was, considering some of the things he had to overcome just within this game.
Yeah, it's a great point. You know, fortunately, around that, it moved pretty well. You know, I think, you know, it seemed like the game ended in pretty good fashion. So probably the pitch clock probably helped him, right? Because it kept the game moving despite that one big hold up there. And I was thinking about that. I'm like, man, it's been a long time. And I noticed him get out to the mound right away when that fifth inning ended, knowing he wanted to make sure he got all of his pitches in or more, you know, if he had time in between innings. So good job of him being aware. Good job of him, you know, staying, you know, doing what he needed to do to be able to go out there and still be locked in.
How would you describe your dugout in that last inning?
You know, some definite looking around, not really acknowledging anything, just kind of looking at each other. And I didn't look down much at all the players, so I don't know what was stirring, but I was just kind of keeping to myself for the most part. Consider moving Izzy in with 2 outs there, just to take away a short hit or something. That's the only thing I said. I said to Louie, I'm like, should we move Izzy in? And it's like, no. I was like, all right. So I was just kind of like, I was fairly calm, but I was also I didn't want to do much of anything.
You mentioned earlier that he's been through so much in his career.
Yeah.
How much have you seen him grow dating back to the suspension and his early years with the team?
Yeah, a ton. You know, those of you that know him or around him, he's such a sweet guy, but you know, he's definitely been through a lot, and you know, taken ownership of a lot, and works really hard to it's important to him to be a good teammate and a good guy, and he works hard to do that. And you know, I think even as we've talked about a lot this year, going back to this winter, I felt like he had a really meaningful winter of, you know, just work and purpose and focus, and came in a really good place. And you know, he's carried that, you know, throughout the season to this point.
I know you guys have a lot going on with the Yankees, but are you cognizant of what's going on out here in Oakland with the team possibly going to Vegas and lack their crowd, and then the way you guys were cheering out there with all the Yankee fans out here in the stands?
Yeah, it was. I mean, look, it was of course, I'm aware of what's going on, but nothing's different. Like, we always have a pretty good following out here of Yankee fans, so I think, you know, that made it cool too to be able to celebrate there a little bit on the field and have a lot of fans there. Kind of being a part of it was I thought made for a nice little post game thing after.
You know, we talked about this in the pregame show, Jack, and from the files of That's Baseball, Susan, 17 runs, 15 earned over his last 2 starts in 5 1/3 innings, and now tonight he's perfect.
Tonight he's perfect, he's dominant, he's brilliant, and it does speak to the baseball journey that every player and every pitcher takes. Domingo Germán was awful in his last 2 starts. He didn't have that curveball. We talked about how he wasn't locating his pitches. His last start, he gives up 4 home runs and 10 runs. Then tonight he gets out there against Oakland, the worst team in baseball, and just finds a groove. And you heard Aaron Boone talk about that, about how Germán is fun to watch. And I know exactly what he's talking about, because the outs come quickly. We've talked a lot about the curveball, but he did throw the fastball. He did throw the changeup. And also Boone talked about a lot of what Germán has been through. Originally signed by the Marlins in 2009, traded to the Yankees in 2014, had Tommy John surgery in 2015, makes his debut in 2017, wins 18 games in 2019. He has a domestic violence suspension 2019-2020. He had the 10-game suspension this year for sticky stuff. You saw a guy out there tonight whose emotions were bubbling over Everything that I just said right now, that's all part of his resume, but so is perfect game pitcher. And when his resume and his story is written, Chris, that's going to be on the top line.
All right, Jack, let's get to our turning point of the game, brought to you by Montefiore Einstein, the official hospital of the New York Yankees. Bottom 5, Seth Brown. He's a hard ground ball to Anthony Rizzo, who makes the diving play and tosses it to Germán for the second out. Ryan Ruocco brought that up. He said, mark that down. We might be talking about that later. And Rizzo's glove work here, Jack, helped Germán get this perfect game.
There's a reason why Rizzo has gold gloves on his shelf. And also, I love this angle, by the way, because you see everything develop in the play. And you see Germán get over there. And you even heard Boone refer to it as the PFP play. How often do we see pitchers either not field their position or they're late to get to first base? Germán is a good enough athlete that after Rizzo made that play, you even saw Rizzo kind of take his time. He took his time, got into a position to throw, and then fired it to Germán.
10 flyouts, 9 strikeouts, 8 groundouts for Domingo Germán tonight. And, you know, you bring up PFP, Jack. In spring training, you think Domingo Germán is doing that work on the side fields, thinking he's going to be doing that in a perfect game?
Probably not, unless he is the dreamer of all dreamers. He told Meredith on the field that he was thinking about a perfect game all night. So, hey, a pitcher, a competitor, you should go into every game thinking that you can be perfect. But if I'm answering your question honestly, I'm going to say no. He wasn't thinking about it in spring training.
All right, Jack, we're going to step aside, take another break here on the WB Mason postgame show. When we come back, we heard from Domingo Germán once on the field. We are going to hear from him once more when we come back after this short break. Stay with us, everyone.
Severino's ready. Let's do it here in the Bronx. Swing and a miss, not reaching that time. Severino wins the battle. Strike 3, got him on the slider. Swing and a miss. Masterpiece for Luis Severino.
Bonobos presents A Course in Style with Justin Rose. Justin Rose, champion golfer with a champion swing. How does he do it? Well, let's take a closer look. Is it his flawless form, elite balance, consistent accuracy? Yes, and also those pants. Give me a little more of those pants, will you? Style, comfort, a great fit. These babies can do it all.
Wherever your tour takes you.
When you feel depressed, anxious, or just stuck, a licensed Talkspace therapist is ready to help. They're experts at providing therapy through video, audio, or text, and it's covered by most insurance. Convenient and affordable therapy, anytime, anywhere.
There's an easier way. With Thumbtack. Download the app today and care for your home from top to bottom.
To succeed in the markets is more difficult than the Olympics.
People play games like GameStop.
The goal is not your personal excitement.
Wall Street makes things very complicated, but it doesn't have to be that way.
People come to me all the time asking, what does the future hold? My answer often surprises them.
July 18th, 1999 was the last Yankees perfect game. David Cone facing the Expos, Jack.
Cabrera with the pop-up, Brocious camps under it. You see Girardi and Cone collapse into each other's arms. It was Yogi Berra days, so Larson and Berra were there. Cone threw 88 pitches. Yogi Berra's number was number 8. Very interesting tidbit. Before the 9th inning, Cone went into the clubhouse bathroom and had a man-to-man discussion with himself in the mirror. He was 36 years old at this time and basically said, this is your last chance potentially to do this. Do not blow this. And then he went out there and got the final 3 outs.
You know what just clicked right there? What was your opening comment?
My opening comment on the pregame was man in the mirror.
And look at where we are right now.
Look at where we are. We're tying it all together.
We're tying it all together. There's 4 perfect games in Yankee history. Don Larson, his catcher, Yogi Berra. David Wells, his catcher, Jorge Posada. And then David Cone, his catcher, Joe Girardi. And tonight, it was Domingo Germán and Kyle Higashioka. Let's hear more from Domingo Germán on his history tonight.
So happy, very exciting, very happy without words, to put into, not much I can say, really.
Domingo, at what point did you start to think that maybe this was possible?
¿En qué momento durante el juego entendías que había posibilidad de que se diera este juego perfecto?
Después del quinto inning. Ya después del quinto inning supe que tenía el juego en control y lo que traté siempre fue de mantener el balance que llevaba y ejecutar y siguiendo ejecutando picheo.
Yeah, I would say after the 5th inning, I felt that I found myself in good shape. So I just try to keep the balance that I had throughout the game and just keep executing pitches at that time, yeah.
How would you describe your curveball tonight?
¿Cómo puede tu curva en esta noche? ¿Qué nos puedes decir de ella? Así que se vio muy efectiva.
Sumamente efectiva, la tenía en control con el primer picho de strike, con un 2 de strike específicamente también, atacándola siempre y hoy todo trabajó, el cambio, reta, todo. Y eso fue un balance demasiado perfecto.
Yeah, very effective tonight, especially for first pitch strike there, also to put away guys with 2 strikes, but in combination with the curveball, I think everything was working well tonight, everything worked really nicely, perfectly.
Domingo, how would you describe being on a list with just 23 other players in Major League Baseball history who did what you did tonight, with the last one being Felix Hernandez in 2012?
Entendiendo la historia de béisbol, ¿verdad? En todos los años, que solamente ha pasado 24 veces. ¿Cómo tú te sientes ahora ser parte de esa pequeña lista de lanzadores que han tenido la oportunidad de lanzar un juego perfecto, en el cual el último fue Félix en el 2012?
Bueno, sumamente contento de saber que está marcado en la historia del béisbol toda la vida, que mis hijos podrán ver eso, podrán disfrutarlo, que pudieran hablar de ese momento. Y ya que mencionan a Félix, él fue el último que lo hizo y es mi ídolo. Siempre he dicho que es mi ídolo y estoy sumamente satisfecho de hacerlo detrás de él, que siempre fue mi ídolo.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about, how many history of baseball and how many pitchers, right, and how many have done it, and to be part of history now, accomplishing, it's exciting, happy, and you mentioned Felix, being the last one to do it, and I've said it before. Growing up, he was my idol. I really looked up to the way he pitched. So now to be in that list, following him, means a lot.
That is a very special club to be a part of. Just 23 other pitchers are in that club, Jack. And how about that? His hero growing up is Felix Hernandez, and he did throw that last perfect game.
Yeah, pretty astounding. And you can still see Germán soaking in this moment. It's only been a couple, well, maybe an hour now, and you heard David Cone say he's not going to sleep tonight. But you could just see the excitement bubbling over, knowing that he just made history and where he put himself in history. I think what he is saying about Hernandez is very important. And listen, Germán has had a career where would you have ever guessed that he would be a pitcher to throw a perfect game? I mean, no one expected Don Larson to do it in the 1956 World Series, but he did do it. But Germán, when he is on, as Boone talked about, he's got that dynamic, electric stuff and the ability to really go to one pitch to get so many outs tonight. That curveball is as good a curveball as anyone in Major League Baseball has. And I feel as if every every time I talk about the curveball and I talk about Germán, we should also continue to mention the job that Higashioka did tonight. You and I watching the game did see a couple of times where Germán shook, but it wasn't as if they were shaking 8 or 10 times in this game. I would imagine it was a handful of times where they weren't on the same page.
We asked David Cohn, too, about the delay, and we both know we've seen pitchers before. It gets kind of dicey if it's a long delay. That 24 minutes in the top of the 5th and then the injury delay in the top of the 8th, you were wondering how was he going to come back from that. And, Jack, he was lights out both times.
And that could be where the input from the dugout was vital. The final question that I asked to David Cohn that I didn't get his response to was the whole idea of interaction with people in the dugout. It was chiefly pitching coach Matt Blake, but as that inning is escalating and the minutes are moving and you haven't thrown a pitch yet, whether it was Germán or someone like Blake in the dugout saying, you better go get yourself warm. We even saw him in the later innings in the dugout just stretching and just trying to make sure that he was ready. I remember David Wells doing the same thing during his 8th inning leading into the 9th inning of his perfect game, just doing all of these sorts of stretches with his arm and his elbows and moving his arms behind his shoulder. I'm not going to try and do it here with a suit, but he was trying to stay as warm and as loose as he possibly could. So Germán made sure he was ready, and there was no drop-off in his stuff, Chris. However many delays there were, however many attempts there were by the A's to get a hit, I mean, his stuff was great in the 1st inning. His stuff was great in the 9th inning.
99 pitches and 9 strikeouts for Domingo Germán tonight in his perfect game. We're going to step aside. When we come back, we will go back out to Oakland and have Brian Rucco and Jeff Nelson put a bow tie on this one from the booth. They did a tremendous job calling tonight's game. History at the Oakland Coliseum. Domingo Germán, perfection.
Severino's ready. Let's do it here in the Bronx. Swing and a miss, not reaching that time. Severino wins the battle. Strike 3, got him on the slider. Swing and a miss. Masterpiece for Luis Severino.
Everything you love from ShopRite is now in your phone on Instacart. Get free delivery on your first order.
There are a lot of us now, and it means so much when we can all be together, especially when we can do something good, like our yearly service project. We're also running a t-shirt fundraiser through Custom Ink to help raise more money and awareness for the cause. Our t-shirt fundraiser with Custom Ink makes it easy to share our campaign and help our community, and their design services team helped us get a design we love. I'm proud that we can make a difference together as a community. Come together for a cause. Get started today at customink.com.
Welcome to the Aura Sleep Lab. You need a bit more deep sleep. Getting enough high-quality sleep increases immunity. Why? Because sleep helps fend off sickness. A good night's sleep boosts your number of infection-fighting antibodies and cells. And with your Aura Ring, you can learn how to sleep deep and keep your immunity up. It's like having a sleep lab on your finger. Go to sleep with auraring.com.
The Volkswagen Taos, German engineering everyone can get into. Visit your local Volkswagen dealer for 1.9% APR financing for 36 months on a new 2023 Taos or Tiguan.
We're back with a look at the final steps. Domingo Germán took it to baseball immortality tonight, presented by your local Ford stores.
Going to go right to the bottom of the ninth there. He is doing the stretching, getting himself ready to try and get the final 3 outs. He's not walking to the mound. He's stalking to the mound. He's jogging to the mound. Diaz is up first, and look at the job by Volpe here. You got to have soft hands at shortstop, able to collect that out. 1 out in the ninth.
Next batter, Shea Langoliers. He flies out to Harrison Bader. He's able to call everybody off. No doubt about it. That was his ball. 1 out away. Next, Esteury Ruiz hits a ground ball to Josh Donaldson. The out is made at first. Anthony Rizzo with the squeeze and the fist pump. Domingo Germán has himself a perfect game. Not to mention the Yankees offense absolutely going off and scoring 11 runs tonight out in Oakland. Domingo Germán had to rebound from his last 2 outings. Boy, oh boy, did he do that. The Yankees offense needed to get off the deck after scoring just 1 run and losing to Oakland last night. They put up an 11 spot, and here's a look at the last 5 no-hitters for the Yankees. Dwight Gooden, David Wells, David Cohn, Corey Kluber, and of course tonight, Domingo Germán. Let's send it back to Oakland now to Ryan Ruocco and Jeff Nelson.
Thanks a lot, Chris. What a night, huh? Oh, my goodness.
Wow. My stomach's still turning, by the way.
Me too.
I didn't know how to act. He was like, do I jump up and down? I'm going to hit my head on the ceiling? Do I hug you? Or what do we do up here?
Well, it's funny because the nerves you feel watching those moments, it's not about anything other than wanting to see them completed, right? And the interesting thing for Yankees fans is they know what it's like to be watching that unfold. They've experienced this before. Some have experienced it 4 times now. Many have experienced it 3. Some have just experienced it for a first time. But, Jeff, I think, that is always part of the backdrop of nights like this when it comes to the Yankees. It's that this franchise has delivered more history than any we have seen in American sports. And you feel the weight of that, and you appreciate the weight of that when you see it unfolding before your eyes like we did tonight.
Yeah, I experienced it twice as a player here with David Wells and David Cohn, and it's a little different as a player because you're sitting in the bullpen and you're trying to do the same thing over and over again and try not to think about it, and you wonder what's going on with everybody else, and you get, I don't know if you get more excited, but then you're up here and you're broadcasting, and I'm listening to you and I'm watching it unfold on the field from about 500 feet up in the air in the broadcast booth, and it was like I still had the same feelings. My gut was turning, and I was like, you're holding your breath on every play. I know you kind of feel the same as the infielders and the position players. Every time the ball's hit to them, they're going through the same thing. Hey, just catching it. Maybe they're seeing like 10 balls come at them at once. Do I just go for the middle one? And he says, okay, and then it happens, and you're so excited for him and anyone who has ever thrown a perfect game, but especially Domingo Germán, after going what he went through the last 2 outings, 5 1/3, and giving up 15 runs, and then coming out and dominating, and probably looking the best he's ever have. I think. I mean, that breaking ball. I
think it's fair to say that now.
That curveball was just filthy. They had no answer. The A's had no answer for that curveball.
Well, and you're right. The layers to his story, obviously, just within this season. He wasn't thought to have a rotation spot. Right. If Frankie Montas doesn't get hurt, there's a good chance Domingo Germán.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Nestor. Right.
Exactly. And an opportunity arises for Germán. Had pitched pretty well, gets suspended. Comes back, pitching really well. Then all of a sudden hits a roadblock so ferocious that you were wondering if tonight he was pitching for his job in the rotation with Rodon coming back. The way Germán struggled so mightily the last 2 starts. But tonight he was completely locked in. His efficiency, his rhythm. And Jeff, I think one of the other things that you appreciated right away during the telecast was his unflappability after that top of the 5th. The top of the 5th is where this could have gone awry. He was in a great rhythm, but at that point you're not quite feeling the history yet. And it's a 24-minute inning, which the Yankees put up 6 runs. He comes right out in the bottom of the 5th after taking some warm-up tosses, and bing, bang, boom, he's through it.
I think that was the most impressive. I mean, one of the most impressive things of the night. And then you had the pitching change where the who was it that came out of the game
Rios,
after 3 pitches, and all of a sudden then you have another reliever reliever, and he's got to get warmed up on the game mound, so that's another 10-minute wait there. And then you had the 3 runs in that top of the ninth, just to wait to get out. And it's like, you would figure after getting up, setting down, the long wait, and that's a lot on a starting pitcher, all the ups and downs. It's not the pitches, it's the ups and downs and waiting, and it's a chilly night here in Oakland, and to go out and do what he did. I mean, it's just an amazing thing. And then Higgy, what he said in the post game, saying, out of any of the starters, he's probably the one that could do something like this.
Yeah, his stuff, and we've seen him flirt with no hitters at times, but his stuff just so electric, and the confidence on the mound. Even the couple times he shook Higgy off, he knew what he wanted to throw all night long. Right. Something Higgy talked about as well. And I think also about Kyle Higashioka and the fact that these two men now, they are linked forever, right? The way Yogi and Don Larson are.
Well, I think as a pitcher, you dream about throwing a perfect game or a no-hitter, and a catcher, I'm sure you dream about catching it.
Yes.
And going and calling the pitch. Well, this time pressing the buttons and getting a little feedback from also Domingo. You could see him shake off a few times, but like you mentioned, they're linked forever now.
We got Yogi and Don. We have Coney and Girardi. We have Posada and Wells. And now we have Domingo Germán, Kyle Higashioka. It's an unforgettable night here. There's also something, I think, a little sweet about this building having a little more history. We don't know how many more baseball games will be played in the Oakland Coliseum. And there were plenty of Yankee fans here tonight to enjoy it. And you know what, Jeff? 56, 98, 99. We know how those seasons ended. A lot of work to do. But if this turns into a special year, no doubt we're going to end up looking back on this night, guys.
Ryan, excellent point. Great job out of you and Nelly tonight. We have more reaction to this perfecto when we come back right here on Yes.
Severino's ready. Let's do it here in the Bronx. Swing and a miss, not reaching that time. Severino wins the battle. Strike 3, got him with the slider. Swing and a miss. Masterpiece for Luis Severino.
Everything you love from ShopRite is now in your phone on Instacart. Get free delivery on your first order.
Rental? Yep. You? Yeah. You know your shoe's untied. Oh! Don't let a boxy suit ruin your night. Read from theblackducks.com.
Current eligible Cadillac lessees get this low mileage lease on this 2023 Cadillac XT4 for around $379 per month. Visit your local Cadillac dealer today.
Tonight's field coverage is brought to you by Liberty Mutual Insurance as we take a look at no-hitters in Yankees franchise history. Of course, the perfect game from Don Larson in the World Series. David Cone, David Wells, and Domingo Germán. And you look at the rich history of the New York Yankees, and Domingo Germán is now forever etched into that stone.
And if you looked at the Yankee pitching staff, and if somebody said to you, hey, pick one of these guys who you think might pitch a perfect game this season, I think the first guy I would pick would be Garrett Cole. And then if I was saying, okay, someone whose stuff is really on that night, I'd probably go with Luis Severino. But then when you start thinking about Germán and his curveball and the fact that he was facing the Oakland A's, you start to put the pieces of the puzzle together and you say, yes, this could happen because it did happen. And Chris, on my scorecard here, I always circle really good plays and I put a little note near baseballs that are hit especially hard. I've got one circle on that Seth Brown play for a great defensive play. Other than that, this was just a dominant outing by Germán. There were never any moments where the A's even came close to getting hits, and we already dealt with that Bride at-bat where we talked about how he fell behind 3-1, came back and threw that really clutch curveball, had so much confidence in that pitch, and then retired him.
You know, in conversations with John Flaherty, you hear about his discussions with maybe Mike Mussina and the scouting report, and Mike Mussina saying, I don't know anything about that scouting report until I know what I have when I go out to the bullpen before the game starts. And Domingo Germán must have had everything in the bullpen today.
He must have really believed in that curveball. We know he usually does. We know that in his last start, that curveball wasn't there for him. We keep talking about it. I have to imagine that there's never been a pitcher in Major League history to give up 10 runs and then follow that with a perfect game. It won't be hard to look up. I'm going to look it up after our show is over because there's only 23 other pitchers to do it. And then, Chris, you hear 24 pitchers through a perfect game. And we know that that's a small number, but how about putting it in this perspective? There have been about 23,000 men who have played the game of Major League Baseball. Obviously, a lot of hitters in there, but I didn't have time to break down the pitchers versus the hitters. 23,000 Major League players, only 24 perfect games. 0.001%. Germán's now in that 0.001%.
How about that? And I'll raise it. How about this? Just 4 Yankees. We talk about the rich history of this franchise, the World Series championships, and how much they've accomplished throughout the years. And now Domingo Germán could say, I'm one of the 4 guys on the most recognizable franchise on the planet that threw a perfect game.
It's an amazing place to be. Coney had a funny line where he said that Germán and Higashioka should get used to signing a lot of autographs because now they're linked together and people will obviously want to have their name together on a perfect game baseball. But you're right, the Yankees have the greatest history of any baseball team, and there have been 4 men who have been perfect, starting with Larson and now ending with Germán, and he should be so proud of what he was able to do tonight. Higashioka should not be lost in all of this. There is someone who is guiding you. There is a co-pilot who is making sure that you are throwing the pitches that are working the best, and Higashioka was as good a co-pilot as you could be tonight.
Perfection in 4D for the Yankees. Don Larson, David Wells, David Cone, and now Domingo Germán. We're going to step aside, take another break here on the WB Mason postgame show, a very historic WB Mason postgame show. When we come back, Jack and I will have some final thoughts. We're back right after this.
It's Yankees baseball in the Bronx, New York. Now he's putting together a season, man. A new holiday tradition. The Yankees have something to celebrate. We have so much more. Great pickoff. Timing play. A grand slam for the kid. He did it. 2-run home run. See ya.
There are some swings of the bat that will get your attention, and that is one of them.
Everything you love from ShopRite is now in your phone on Instacart. Get free delivery on your first order.
Hey. Hey. Rental?
Yep.
You? Yeah. You know your shoe's untied. Oh. Don't let a boxy suit ruin your night. Read from theblackducks.com.
Custom Ink helps us celebrate and drive our students' achievements with custom gear. They love Custom Ink's different styles and designs. We love how Custom Ink makes the process simple with their easy-to-use design lab expert artists right here to help, and unbeatable customer service. Custom Ink allows our kids to show everyone their accomplishments and the pride they have in our school. When we place an order, I know they got our back, so we can focus on the kids.
Custom Ink has hundreds of products to help you feel connected. Upload your logo or start your design today at customink.com.
You done yet? It's 2 a.m. Why are you still scrolling through videos? You're not paying me overtime here. If you really want to see something new, why not change those shades that have been broken for the past 2 years? Let's tap the Thumbtack app, and in a matter of seconds, we'll find a pro to install new shades.
Okay.
With Thumbtack, you can easily find top-rated professionals for every home project.
Thumbtack, the easy way to care for your home.
Let's take a look at all the last outs of the 4 perfect games, Jack. First, of course, Don Larson.
1956 World Series. Yogi Berra comes out, and how about this? Yogi leaps into Larson's arms. Yankees come out and celebrate.
Nissan plays of the game, of course. Here's David Wells back in 1998. Paul O'Neill with the squeeze and the fist bump, the double fist bump from O'Neill and Wells as he celebrates his perfecto. That one against the Twins, and David Cone here against the Expos.
Slider, Cabrera pops it up. He's going to do it. I think that's what John Sterling said. Grotius camps under it. And then again, we see the celebration right near the mound, and we see Cone waving to the fans.
And now the last D in the 4D, Domingo Germán. The ground ball to Donaldson. Rizzo squeeze and another fist pump, and Domingo Germán waiting for his teammates. I know you brought that up earlier, Jack. You loved that he waited for his teammates to come out and celebrate with him. Take a look at the graphic now. The perfect games in graphic form: October 8th, 1956, May 17th, 1998, July 18th, 99, and of course tonight, Domingo Germán against the A's, and that's brought to you by Toyota. And Jack, I have to ask you, where does Domingo Germán's perfect game rank for you?
Well, we were covering this game together. We're in our studio, and I love working with you and everybody. Yes. There's something special about actually being at the ballpark. So as exciting and as adrenaline-filled as it was to be covering it from the studio, I would have rather traded places with Rucco and Nelson. I'd rather be in Oakland covering it, but it's high on the list of accomplishments for Germán. So for us to be able to chronicle that means a lot. One quick story. Years after Cone pitched his perfect game, I was working on a book with him, and we sat in my home and watched the perfect game all over again. And David said to me, I've never done this before. So I felt that that was really cool. And Chris, even though we knew the result, the tension and the nerves were mounting as Cone was piling up out after out. You're watching it again, and you know it was going to be a perfect game, yet he was still very nervous, and so was I.
He was still nervous watching it back with you?
He was leaning forward in his chair. He was kind of saying to me, I need this pitch right here. I was waiting to see what Girardi would do. So maybe years from now, I'll see if Domingo Germán and Marlon Abreu will sit down and we'll do that all over again.
We'll have to make that happen. That is going to finish up the WB Mason postgame show on a night that will live forever. In an 11-0 Yankees win over the A's, Domingo Germán throws the 24th perfect game in MLB history. For Jack Curry and our entire Yes Network team, I'm Chris Sheeran. Thanks for staying up and being a part of the unforgettable evening with us.
Severino's ready. Let's do it here in the Bronx. Swing and a miss, not reaching that time. Severino